All right, guys, I'll tell you this as I wipe this kind of fuzz off my microphone. I've never seen. I've been watching a lot of games. That might be one of the best games that I have watched between Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen last night. The game was phenomenal. It had everything that you would have liked in a game, and it's sad that one quarterback had to lose in that scenario. What Josh did at the end of the game, just so accurate, throwing down the field to Gabriel Davis, getting yards after catch, guys running really open. The Emmanuel Sanders contested catch on the pass interference, and then Josh Allen throwing a strike right down the middle. The Chiefs' defense pretty much got abused, and they didn't really mix up their coverages to stop the Buffalo Bills. And then you go to Tyreek Hill, and Tyreek Hill, I think that Tyreek Hill had the best game of his career, and that was the most important touchdown. Maybe the Super Bowl catch is more important, but those catches that Kelsey and Tyreek Hill made, that's what you want in a game. You want all the stars to show up, and it was a phenomenal, phenomenal game. Now, defensively, there were issues on both sides, and Buffalo could have, I seen somebody today bring up a great point. I wasn't thinking this, but they could have tried to hold the Chiefs receivers in that, a little loophole, which would have been a penalty there at the end when it was 13 seconds remaining. But still, this game was a really well-played game from start to finish. And the Bills had a wonderful team. I thought their defense was good, but Kansas City in that speed just wears you down. And the one way the Bills were going to win this game was if it was a home game in Orchard Park, but going to Arrowhead and trying to win on the road is so tough, and that's why in the regular season, the Jacksonville game was winnable, the Colts game, the first Patriots game, the Steelers, there's winnable games there on that schedule, and the Chiefs still have everything go through Arrowhead Stadium. So the Chiefs defense, their D-line is fantastic. Honey Badger wasn't playing, but Josh Allen was slicing them up in the secondary, and his running and throwing ability. Josh Allen has come so far from his time when he was a youngster in this league. Because when he was a youngster in the league, Brian Dable would have Josh Allen throwing the ball all the time, and people thought that it was reckless how often he was throwing the ball. He had a good second season. They made the playoffs, had the good game on Thanksgiving. You could see the talent, but you could also see the major inconsistencies, and he could have went the path of Carson Wentz. But the way that Allen throws his release, he shortened up that release. He worked hard on it. He's an incredible leader and teammate. And he, luckily, knock on wood, has not gotten injured like Carson Wentz. But just Allen's ability to play, to really be entrusted in that offense with Dable, the continuity between Dorsey, Josh Allen, Brian Dable, Sean McDermott, everybody on the staff, they all came back looking for that championship, and, Stephon Diggs, Gabriel Davis, the way that they drafted guys like Motor Singletary, Dawson Knox, and all those players, Cole Beasley, Emmanuel Sanders, Brandon Beane and this team was going all in, and they were on the path, and they were ready to go, and Josh Allen led that amazing drive down the field, and with 13 seconds left, that's what the game came down to. First, a brilliant play call to Tyreek Hill, and then a throw to Kelsey. I think the Bills didn't know how many timeouts Kansas City had because the middle of the field there, they just let them have the middle of the field. I really think that in their heart of hearts, they lost track of the timeouts, just wanting to play the sideline, and Kansas City executed that perfectly. Now, I've heard a lot of arguments about the overtime rule and how it's unfair that like one team gets the football back. Maybe you could change it up for the playoffs. Maybe you can have both teams, get a possession, continue the game that way. If they tie, then you go from midfield. That would maybe be, a really exciting overtime. Like, say that, you tie after the first overtime, then it's ball on the 40-yard line, college football rules. But college football too, like after the third overtime in college, they're deciding that you got to go for 2-point conversions. And I would rather it be after 6 overtimes. I think that it's too premature, going for 2 and whatever. At the same time, I've been of the proponent for a long time. Like, you got to keep a team out of the end zone. If not, you deserve to lose because defense is a part of the game as well. But guess what? If you're tied with another team after that long, it's overtime and anything can truly happen. Then you have a 50-50 chance. If you can't beat the team in the 60 minutes you're allotted, then you got to play an extra period where your own destiny isn't in your hands anymore after 60 minutes of football. But, I mean, Josh Allen has never always been this great. As a rookie, he was, Nate Peterman started over him. And then in his second year, he really had some, bad decisions. And then in the Houston Texans game, he was still a little bit raw in terms of his play and everything. And then last year, during the COVID year, he really had his success with Stephon Diggs, put together some tremendous primetime performances, was able to beat Baltimore in a really cold game where he didn't even play that well in the cold. So, yeah, people talk about the win-loss stat record, and the point is here is that Josh Allen, he beat Baltimore, and he didn't even play that well in that game. He played well against Houston, but Deshaun Watson beat him. So, eventually it's going to catch up one way or another. He played all right in the Colts game. He was able to win it. The defense played well. The defense played really well against the Baltimore Ravens, and Allen did not play well, but guess what? He gets a win on his tally. Guess what? He played pretty dang good in the conference championship game, but the defense didn't play well. So, that's just part of it. Peyton Manning also has a lot of postseason losses. It's the quality of the loss. You look at Aaron Rodgers, and Russell Wilson throws 4 interceptions, and Aaron Rodgers does not put the final nail in the coffin. Jimmy Garoppolo has a really poor performance, and Aaron Rodgers is right there to win, and it's not there for the taking. So a lot of times factors outside of quarterback record happen, but sometimes there's quarterbacks in the playoffs that do not have a good record, and they are responsible for losing. Ryan Tannehill lost that game with interceptions. That was a poor performance. Matthew Stafford against the Saints played really well, but against the Dallas Cowboys, that was his time to win it. That was his time to shine. So there's certain games, either way, whether it's fair or unfair, they usually seem to balance off most of the time. So Matthew Stafford had his moment. He played well in the game yesterday. There's no denying he played very, very well. I know Cooper Kupp was open. The Bucs defense played poorly, and the Rams defense played unbelievable the entire game. And Von Miller was amazing. Aaron Donald. I mean, Brady, how many fourth downs, how many sack fumbles did the Bucs have? The Bucs were a mess. If it were not for Cam Akers, that game should have been over. The Bucs were the better team, and Matthew Stafford was a huge part of that early on. He was getting rid of the ball. He was hitting Beckham in the flat. He was hitting Tyler Higbee, Cooper Kupp. I mean, Matthew Stafford played really, really well. Now, there were a lot of other quarterbacks that could have beaten Brady on that day yesterday because the defense of the Rams was just impeccably good all game. And until Cam Akers started fumbling the ball, that's only when Brady started to heat up. But it looked like to me that Tom Brady looked like he wanted to retire after yesterday's game. I mean, that's what I would say about Tom Brady. He looked like he was ready to retire. He did not have the same fire, the same spark. Tom Brady looked checked out. Tom Brady is likely going to retire. I mean, he knew the Rams were better. He's like, I'm tired of taking these hits. Antonio Brown, no Godwin. My body's already old. I can barely move in the pocket anymore. And he's all right, Tom Brady, but he has just zero mobility. A lot of his throws yesterday were off, soft throws. That defense was absolutely embarrassing Brady, and the talent differential was on full display. Raheem Morris was sensational. Kevin O'Connell and Sean McVay were great. And for Matthew Stafford, I mean, this is tremendous. The first game, he didn't need to play all that well. His defense, he's got a winning hand. He has a great defense, kind of like Jimmy G. I mean, any quarterback would have beat Kyler Murray that first game. And I've been critical of Stafford. I said he was overrated. You know, I've been saying, for a while that Stafford can't win games and that he should have won games in Detroit, should have elevated his defense. I was maybe being unfair to Matthew Stafford. If he wants to be a Hall of Famer and one of the best, I think you have to win where you're drafted. It did not happen for Matthew Stafford. It just seemed like Matthew Stafford a lot of times was aloof and checked out. Yesterday he was engaged. He had a huge throw to Cooper Kupp. This is a legendary run so far for Stafford. I mean, when you play with Von Miller and Aaron Donald, I mean, you got a tremendous team, but at the same time, I got to give credit to Stafford for being clutch, for winning these two games. This was further than I'd ever believe he could go. I do want to see Garoppolo win. I want to see Stafford lose in the NFC Championship. And then if Stafford never gets to a Super Bowl, that question will still be pretty relative. Just like Carson Palmer got to an AFC Championship, just like Rivers has gotten to an AFC Championship. There are certain Mark Sanchez played in 2 AFC Championships. If Matthew Stafford cannot win the NFC at home against a banged-up Garoppolo, I mean, I think the Rams do have a better team, but I know that the Niners have beaten them twice. It's so hard to beat a team 3 times. I thought Garoppolo in the cold, he made a couple mistakes, like that interception before the half. I still thought he played pretty good in the game, in all honesty. I mean, he took a lot of sacks, but he hasn't been that mobile. The Packers have a good pass rush. He got them down the field in the end of the game by running the ball, hitting a couple of slants. This guy's been through the gauntlet now twice. He beat Minnesota, beat Green Bay, where I know a lot of quarterbacks could have done that, but he's played big. In the Super Bowl, he was slated to win the MVP of the Super Bowl. Let that one get through his fingertips. Let's see if Jimmy G can finish the job now. Ryan Tannehill, from his Miami days, again, he shocked me. The game he played against Baltimore, him hitting those big boy throws on the road to beat Lamar Jackson when Lamar Jackson was the reigning MVP with Derrick Henry, that was a sensational performance. The way that Tannehill beat New England, I know he only threw for 100 yards, but that was a winning performance. The way that Tannehill has won his division the last 2 years is impressive. And yesterday, I know he turned the ball over through a late interception. He had some good throws. He was hitting AJ. He was hitting Julio Jones. His deep ball was good. A bad mistake to start off the game, a freak play on a screen pass, and a bad decision late. I mean, Ryan Tannehill still, I know that right now he's not playing that well, and he's given up golden opportunities because that team was better than the Bengals were. That D-line is better on Tennessee. The running game is better, but the passing game is where it's at for Cincinnati, and they were able to take advantage with turnovers. Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase are still fantastic, and now they're going to go to Kansas City, where ironically Tennessee looks like a much better defense than Kansas City. So the key is for Joe Burrow, can he slow the game down? Can he convert on some third downs? Can he keep Kansas City's defense really fresh so that they can play a 4-quarter game up there in Kansas City? Or is it going to be like Tennessee, Kansas City 2 years ago? That remains to be seen. can Joe Burrow take the show on the road? But you still have Frank Clark, and you still have Chris Jones from Mississippi State, another great Mississippi D lineman, Jeffrey Simmons, and now Chris Jones. So it's going to be a show. I'm really excited for that game. And then I believe the end game is an NFC Championship contest out on the West Coast at the site of the Super Bowl, where the Rams could be playing 2 consecutive games or the Niners can be playing 2 consecutive games in that stadium. The Niners, can they run the ball? Can they get to Matthew Stafford? I mean, Stafford was almost gotten to, but at D-line, this game, these teams know each other so well. This game could be really competitive. I love the 49ers because I love a team that plays all 3 phases. They play great special teams. Their defense is truly special. And I don't want to see this sport become an individualized sport where just the quarterbacks rule everything. I want to see each sum of the parts matter. And I believe that the 49ers, out of all the teams in the field, they have the defensive line. They have the linebackers of Fred Warner and Greenlaw and those guys. They have good secondary pieces. They have D'Amico Ryans, who's amazing. Their chemistry is awesome. The way they utilize Deebo Samuel. I know that you have Kelsey and Kittle are right up there. I still think Jimmy G can win games. I don't think there's really a big difference. I know Stafford can throw it a heck of a lot longer, can throw on the move, and you could do more things with Matt. But Jimmy Garoppolo, when it comes down to it, he can still make big throws, and he still takes chances with the ball and sets his team up to win games. And if you think about it, the Rams were up 7, 1 minute and 40 seconds left, and Robbie Gould is punting it because the Niners kicker was hurt. He was punting it from his own end zone. The Rams were 1 first down away from ending the 49ers season. The Rams were up 17-0. And now the Rams, since they did not get rid of those pesky 49ers, now the 49ers, who had that unbelievable victory in overtime over the Rams, where Stafford could have drove them down and eliminated the 49ers. He threw a pick. The 49ers now are playing the Rams for the rights to win that conference, to go to the Super Bowl game. So it's unbelievable how that goes full circle. Overall, these games are great because if you love defense and you love a showdown like that, I mean, the Niners-Packers game was great defense, perfect assignment football, unbelievable execution on both sides, or really on the defensive side of the ball. Not so much on the offensive side. But then you go to Buffalo and Kansas City, and there wasn't much execution down the stretch defensively in the secondary. But if you're in the offense, it was an offensive masterpiece. It was beautiful quarterback play. So you had that. You had a thrilling Titans-Bengals game where Joe Burrow gets hit 9 times for sacks and still gets up and fights in a Bengals team that has never won, hasn't made it to an AFC championship in 35 years. Beats the 1 seed in a thrilling game. Tannehill has that play. An amazing interception by Tennessee. A.J. Brown's one-handed catch. I mean, that game, pound for pound, had great defense. It had great offense. It had great running game. That game was actually sprinkled in more, where the other 2 games were lopsided. Terrible defense in Kansas City, Buffalo. Terrible offense in Green Bay and San Francisco. But the balance of Tennessee and the Bengals, what a thrilling Saturday. And then that Sunday game was amazing. When are you going to see 17 points, 400 yards of offense combined between both quarterbacks, the highest rated QBRs in the game? When are you going to see that again? When are you going to see a duel like that again between 2 possible, probable Hall of Famers? Definitely one with Mahomes, who's already got the championship and the MVP, that's already has like a Brett Favrean resume in terms of what he's done so far. He's already like on the level of Brett Favre. Then you have Allen that plays like a little bit like Steve McNair. You have Josh Allen, who every single year plays like Cam Newton, MVP, healthy Cam Newton. But imagine Cam Newton, but a Cam Newton that plays 10 years full health and that can be even more accurate than Cam Newton in the NFL. That's Josh Allen, who's just Superman. These guys are just so talented. And then in the AFC, you do have Joe Burrow, who's Joe Cool. Joe Burrow, one of the most intelligent quarterbacks we've seen as a young guy. Very promising what he's done with, a downridden franchise in the Bengals and a coach that didn't prove anything until Joe got there. But you still got to give Zach Taylor credit. And then you have Herbert, that is another freak from the quarterback position in the AFC. Then you still have Lamar Jackson. I mean, one of the great improvisers at the quarterback position, a guy that is a freaking monster running and throwing the ball with great touch that ended up getting hurt at the end of this year. Deshaun Watson plays in that conference. He's young. If he comes back into the league, Deshaun Watson is such a talent as well in the AFC. So it's wild to think about. Mac Jones, can Mac be like a Joe Burrow? Use his mind, control the game? Can the Patriots get defense? Can they put a model of this San Francisco team together or the Giants teams where you have a great defensive line and a quarterback who makes clutch plays and clutch decisions late in games to win? Can the Patriots get home field and beat the Bills in the regular season? And can the Patriots beef up that defense so that Bill Belichick gets another crack at Josh Allen and Mahomes? Boy, the NFL and the AFC is in a great spot right now. What a weekend worth of NFL football. So many things to discuss. The weekend did live up to the hype.